Dr. Bentley, this question goes to you, and it's about economic development in Alabama. The state is experiencing record high unemployment, something that the country indeed is struggling with, but some places in Alabama have suffered from this problem for decades, particularly the Black Belt, which has some of the highest unemployment rates in the country. Wilcox County, for example, has a nearly 22% jobless rate. The national rate is 9.6% by comparison, so it's more than double the national unemployment rate. What would you do as governor to encourage job creation and economic development in regions like the Black Belt that have struggled for so long to climb out of poverty?
Well, I think what you have to do is you first have a short-term goal and then you have a long-term goal. Short-term goal is the businesses that are there, we need to help them with tax credits or tax deductions. Like I did in last year's session, we passed the Reemployment Act of 2010, which will give a tax deduction if you'll hire someone off the unemployment roll. But long-term, what you have to do is you have to create an environment in this state, including the Black Belt, which will entice jobs into that area. We keep Alabama a right-to-work state. We have to have well-trained workers. We keep the cost of business low by keeping the cost of energy low, and we keep taxes low. We can't keep down unwarranted lawsuits, and that's very important for many of these areas. We also have to have infrastructure, and in fact that may be the most important thing other than the right-to-work state part. We have to have infrastructure, and these areas don't have the proper infrastructure. So we need to be working on that. Now, you're not going to get the type of industry in some of these places that we will get in Huntsville or in Birmingham, like biotech industry. So what you have to look at the area and see what they have available. What do they have in Greene County? They have hunting, they have fishing, they have catfish farms, we have timber. So you try to get industries that will fit the areas. So I think that's very important, to look at the area, see what's available, see who can work there, and then you can bring industry in that will fit that area.
I'd like to follow up just briefly, give you another 30 seconds. Those industries have been there for decades, and the problem still exists. They haven't been able to survive on timber.
Well, they have, you're exactly right, but you can expand on those. For instance, hunting. You can have preserves. You can encourage the deer people to come in and have preserves and have people to come into that area to bring money into that area for hunting. So, I mean, that's just an example there. But the most important thing, I think, is infrastructure. Then we can start to begin to get real industry into those areas.
Thank you. Commissioner Sparks, economic development in some of the state's poorer regions?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. You know, Dr. Bentley keeps talking about the 5,000 jobs. First of all, I wish Dr. Bentley would explain how many jobs he's created up to this point. 0. We got to talk about giving somebody a job today, and if it is 5,000 jobs, my arithmetic tells me that's 1,200 jobs a year. That won't make a difference in Northport, Alabama. We've got to give thousands of jobs to the people of Alabama, just like I have as Commissioner of Agriculture, traveling the world creating jobs. Over 90% of the utility poles that go to Cuba today comes out of Alabama. Over 50% of the poultry that goes to Cuba today comes out of Alabama. I stood at the docks of Mobile, Alabama, and told Vietnam and China that if you can't produce your food at the same standard we produce it in Alabama, it'll never make it to the plates of the people of Alabama. The catfish industry saved 2,700 jobs. But we need to be looking at alternative fuel. There's two things that we can do in Alabama very well: grow grass and trees. We ought to be coal-firing our furnaces, and using 10% of what we put in our furnaces ought to be switchgrass. We need to be a world leader in alternative fuel. In Alabama today, we used 2.5 billion gallons of gasoline. If we only had 10% of that in alternative fuel, that's 250 million gallons that we need to make in Alabama. That's how you create jobs. You create jobs by building roads from North Alabama to South Alabama. 38,000 jobs. That's why I said we will implement a $1.4 billion road program. We need thousands of jobs. That's what we need. And as governor, I will create jobs to help those people in that region so that they can take care of their families, pay their house payments, buy a car, and send their children to school.
Thank you. Dr. Bentley, 1 minute for rebuttal.
Well, if Commissioner Sparks had read my bill, he would see that it was modeled after the Work Opportunities Tax Credit Bill in 2007 that created 4,600 jobs in this state. Now, no, it has not created any deductions yet, because you have to hire somebody off the unemployment roll and keep them for a year before it can be measured. We really don't know how many jobs this will create. Now, as far as his jobs plan is concerned, the $1.4 billion, the billion-dollar part comes from a bill that's already passed that I voted on. He can't take credit for that bill. He had nothing to do with that bill. That's Senate Bill 121, and you will vote on that on November the 2nd and amendment number 3.
Thank you. Commissioner Sparks, 1 minute.
Yeah, I can take credit for that bill because I pushed for that bill just as hard as Dr. Bentley. And I'm going to add $400 million on top of that bill of Garvey bonds so that we can start building roads today. We need to start building infrastructure across Alabama immediately. It will create 38,000 jobs across this state. 30% of our bridges in Alabama is over 50 years old. People are driving on dangerous roads. We need to make these roads safer. I used to be a county commissioner. I understand what it takes to build a road. But I can tell you, it takes money, it takes commitment, and as governor of Alabama, I will make it happen.